Welcome to John Redmann, Power of Attorney, the show that aims to empower you through knowledge of the law. I'm Attorney John Redmann.
And hello, everyone. I'm Shauna Sanford. Well, today is part 2 of our show about the Affordable Care Act. Last week, we focused on individuals, and today it's all about small businesses and what employers and employees need to know about Obamacare.
2 major health education organizations have teamed up to give statewide seminars to help educate small business owners about the new federal health care law.
And there certainly is lots to talk about when it comes to small businesses. You're a small business owner, so I know you're hearing a lot of talk about how the ACA will impact small business owners.
Indeed, and you know, even long before there was any talk about Obamacare, small business owners who wish to take good care of their employees offer them help in getting health care, because you take good care of your employees, hopefully they're going to take good care of you and your business and your customers. Now with Obamacare or the ACA, there's a lot of anxiety out there, and certainly I was worried about it too. I'm still worried about it. How is it going to affect our bottom line? What is it going to do as far as changing the health benefits that are available? Are you going to be able to keep the health insurance that you have, the health insurance providers that you have? It's going to be a very interesting discussion because there's so many questions that people have. I've got questions. I want to know what's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to the discussion
and
today.
Hopefully our guests will be able to answer all of those questions. Carmen Sunda of the Louisiana Small Business Development Centers and Doug Wilkinson of Louisiana Healthcare Education Coalition will join us coming up shortly right after the break, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Well, the rollout of the Affordable Care Act has certainly been very controversial, and one of the most talked about components of the new health care law is really how it will impact the business community.
Joining us today to help us better understand some of the issues are Carmen Sunda, Director of Louisiana Small Business Development Center's Greater New Orleans Division, and Doug Wilkinson, who is a field coordinator for the Louisiana Healthcare Education Coalition. It's
great to have both of you on here. We really appreciate your time. This is such an important topic. We've talked about how the ACA affects individuals. Today we're focusing on small businesses. And just to get the ball rolling here, if both of you could really speak to what you're hearing from small business owners. Is there a lot of confusion? Are they frustrated? Are they nervous? What are you hearing, Carmen?
Lots and lots of confusion. That's one of the reasons that we're co-sponsoring the workshops around the state about this, because small businesses really need to have accurate information from reliable sources and trusted sources, and the LSBDC plays that role. We provide education for our business owners. We want them to have the best information they have to make the best management choice that they can make for their business.
And before you go on, you said that very quickly, LSBDC?
Louisiana Small Business Development Center, Greater New Orleans Region, LSBDC for short. Okay. It's a statewide organization.
That's what I was going to ask you. It is statewide. You're
Absolutely.
With the Greater New Orleans
New Orleans region.
But there are others elsewhere?
Yes, we have 10 centers across the state, and all of our training with these folks will be throughout the entire state.
How many small businesses are there out there? Just ballpark, if you could give us some idea.
I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you that 90 to 95% of all Louisiana businesses fit the small business standard category.
Wow, okay.
So it's what they lack in maybe number of employees, they make up in volume.
I see.
So small businesses are a very important economic engine of the state.
Yeah, huge.
Huge.
Doug, you're with the Louisiana Healthcare Education Coalition. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
LHEC.
LHEC, that's it. I had
Okay.
to think because I heard the LSEBDC, and so yeah, no, that's correct. It's,
tell us about it.
It's it was a community education coalition that was put together. It was started originally by Blue Cross Blue Shield, but then we went out into the marketplace. We have about 184 businesses now, profit and nonprofit, and a couple of government agencies. The State Department of State Department of Insurance is a member. The LSBDC is a member. So I mean, we've got a pretty good cross section of organizations that have joined, and the whole purpose was to help educate people, businesses and individuals, about how to access the Affordable Care Act, how to get the most out of that particular act and make sure you stay in compliance. And so that's what we've been doing since March. public seminars, educational venues, shows such as yours. So we've been doing those types of activities just to make sure things go as smoothly as possible that we can control.
Well, I know there was a lot of confusion before it actually rolled out, and since it's rolled out with all of the glitches, there perhaps is even more confusion. Are you hearing a lot of frustration?
Sure. I mean, people can't get on the website. I guess that's improved some. We've kind of stopped paying attention to it. You know, there was a lot of problems in the first week. Now, I'm not really sure what's been going on recently. I was able to get my daughter on, so I have some personal knowledge now. She now has health care coverage starting January 1, so we're glad to have that.
Well, let's get into a couple of the fundamental stepping stones on the topic. Let's define what constitutes a small business in Louisiana and how that relates to the mandate for small businesses in the healthcare issue.
Small businesses in Louisiana are defined, we define them as the SBA Small Business Standards defined them. So they're defined by number of employees and also sales. Basically, if you're not dominant in your field, you are a small business. So you might have a small business that has 20 employees and they have $40 million in sales, but they're going to be considered a small business. So it depends industry by industry. It's not always used to be if you're under 500 employees, you know, you're still small. Still, a lot of businesses are large by our standards, but they can have anywhere from 1 or 2 employees up to nearly 500 employees and still be considered small if they're not dominant in their industry.
And as it relates though to the ACA though? As
it relates to the ACA, there are probably much higher percentage of those businesses that are 50 and under employees and 25 and under than the ones 50 and over.
Okay.
That's going to make up that bulk of that 90 to 95%. It's going to be the very small businesses.
And so what does that mean if I have 50 employees and more or 50 employees and less? What does it mean for me?
If you have more than 50 employees, you're what they call an ale. Don't you love all these acronyms? An ale. Now this is a drink. Yeah, go drink an ale. But this is an ale, which is an applicable large employer. So the Affordable Care Act defines a large employer, which you find very crazy, but they define a large employer, somebody that has 50 plus employees. Anybody under that is considered a small employee.
Okay.
If you're an ALE, if you're 50 and plus, you have to comply to the Affordable Care Act starting in 2015, which means next year in 2014 is when you'll start your notification of employees and getting all your ducks in a row. But for the small business, and that's the 49 employees and less, they have what they call SHOP, which is another acronym, but it's Small Business Health Options Program, and it's a way to purchase insurance through the marketplace. You can go on, just like an individual can go on and pick out a policy, a small business can go on and pick out a policy for their small employees.
So not all small businesses are going to have to participate in this.
Correct.
Is that message getting out there?
No. Real bluntly,
in a word,
no. In a word, no. That's why we're doing this. Is that there is a lot of confusion, and some of our small businesses are pretty sure they don't. It doesn't qualify to them, but they don't know. And I think we can speak to that by when we're promoting these seminars around the state. We're having a tremendous amount of response, more than I thought we would have. And so the seminars coming up over the next few months are getting a lot of traction with people just wanting to come and hear the accurate facts from reliable sources.
Sure, because there's a lot that they don't know, and they need to know what they need to know.
Correct. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Just to help me, I'm a small business owner. I don't have 50 employees. What are your basic requirements? You have to, your employees, they're individuals, they have individual households. Maybe they're required to get health insurance, but the employer's required to help provide them insurance, help pay for their insurance. What's the employer who has less than 50 employees supposed to do regarding helping their employees get insurance? The
employer of less than 50 doesn't have to do anything. Doesn't have to do a thing.
So we can keep doing what he or she is doing right now?
Keep making widgets. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to get involved in all that. You have to let your employees know that you're not doing anything, but you don't have to do anything, and you're in compliance. This act only is for individuals. Now, all of his employees now would become an individual, and they have to go out and purchase their own policy.
Right. If he wants or she wants to do something for her employees, less than 50 employees, what options can they? And what options are there?
If you're talking about for the small business, for the small business, they can go into the marketplace. When you go into the website, the marketplace website, there's two bars, I don't know what they call them, but there's a tech term for them. You can click on one for individual or one for small business. And if you click on the one for small business, it's going to take you in there. You tell them what state you're in, what zip code, that kind of stuff, and then it'll show you these are the plans that are available in your state. And then you pick and choose what you want, and then you can make that available to your employees.
Okay. And you can compare the whether or not you get a bang for your buck, buying for a bulk of employees, or then compare that to what they can get for themselves shopping individually.
That's correct.
And see if that's a good price comparison.
The big thing for a small business, and this is the one thing that they really want to key in on, is the big thing for a small business is the fact that they have tax credits that are available to them if they follow certain rules, such as less than 25 employees, making an average of $50,000 a year and less, or less, and that they're covering half of the individual employee's premium cost. So if the premium is $200 a month, if they're paying at least half of that, then they have tax credits that are available to them. And the interesting thing about these tax credits are you don't have to use them in the year you got them. If your business is not going to make money that year, or if you don't have a tax issue that year, you can save it and use it in 2015 or 2016. So that's actually a pretty good benefit for any small business.
Where the Small Business Development Center comes in is one of the big issues all of our businesses have is finding and keeping good employees. So this is one way they can do an evaluation of whether or not this would be a good strategy for them. If they have some key employees that they'd like to hang on to, or if they'd like to have a competitive advantage, this is one way for them to look at how they could do that, just like they would any other strategies. And again, that's where we come in with helping them work through that decision. Is this the best decision for them and their business and their employees?
Well, as a matter of fact, there are 4 main questions, right, that businesses need to ask.
Well, yeah, you need to find out, first of all, how many benefit eligible employees do I have? We're talking in terms of employees like they're people, but that's not the way the government calculates your employees. They do it based on what they call, I hate doing this to you again, FTEs, full-time equivalents, which would be how many hours. The norm is 30 hours. How many people do you have that work 30 hours or more?
30 hours or
per
more.
week.
Per week.
Per
not
week.
40. Now, because
No.
we know 40.
We all deal with a 40-hour week,
yeah.
but they're only interested in those that have. That doesn't mean we're going to. I had somebody bring that up. Are we going to a 30-hour work week? No, we're not going to a 30-hour work week. This is strictly 30 hours, the minimum.
Okay.
So if I have 2 people that are both working 15 hours a week for me part-time, that's 1 FTE. So if I have 100 part-time people all working 15 hours a week, then I have 50 employees. I have 50 FTEs, and now I have to be in compliance with the ACA.
Wow, so for employers out there who are thinking they could scale back and not have to do anything, not so fast. That really is not the case, because it's all about the work hours, what they add up to that bottom line.
Same apply if you've got 200 people working 10 hours a week.
I don't know what's the math on that. Yeah.
That's 50 people at 40 hours.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we'll work on that math because we have to take a break. And when we come back, we will continue our conversation, and we are going to include your questions. So stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. Well, it is time to take our viewer questions, and you have lots of them. We are talking, of course, about the Affordable Care Act as it relates to small businesses. We've talked in great detail about individuals. Today, we're honing in on small businesses. And right before we get to our viewer questions, we were just talking about the whole work week or hours as it relates to employers and employees, because that's really what is key here. That bottom line, the number of hours. Is that right, Doug?
That's correct. And when you ask me about the 4 things that an employer should keep up with, that's probably the most important. And what they want to be able to do is they'll know how many full-time employees they have. That's not hard to figure out. But it comes to those part-time. And John, you mentioned, if I got 200 working 10 hours. Yeah. But it also applies to your contractors. If you're running, let's say you have a grass or some type of lawn service, and you have a lot of people that are contract for you, they work a couple of days a week, you have to count all those too, even though they may not be working for you. But if you control, it's the old common law definition. If I can control what's done and how it's done, I may not be able to control where it's done and when it's done. But if I can do how and what, then that's an employee. Even though I'm not paying them as an employee, that's what's calculated when you figure out your FTEs.
Okay.
So that leads into the second thing, and that is get professional help. I would definitely get in touch with CPA, business leader, some trusted source about.
Always a good idea.
Oh, absolute power of attorney. I'd get an attorney.
Well, now if you don't know where to go,
the SBDC can help you. That's
Exactly.
that's our mission. Our mission is to empower our entrepreneurs with the right tools, technical assistance,
Make sure to
success.
have your website link to your website on our show website, so people can find you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of business owners who don't want to, make a big mistake and get into trouble, get on the wrong side of that law. So we'll make sure people can find you.
Yeah, because you provide a wealth of services.
Absolutely. Our main 3 things we do is business education, business advising, and access to capital. And the business education and advising is probably 2 really key components as it relates to the Affordable Care Act.
Because that's done for a fee, or is that just?
No, this is absolutely no charge to the business owner.
Wow, that's great.
Music to business
Yeah,
owners'
music to their
ears.
ears. So here's a place that you can come and help you, if you're not really sure about how many full-time, part-time, or how those hours calculate, we can work through that with you. And if you're not sure if you're under 25 employees, if that's really a good management decision for you, we can help you work through that choice as well.
What's that website address?
www.lsbdc.org.
Okay, we're going to remember all of these, right? We'll have a quiz at the end of the show. Well, there are 3 other questions. Could you just go through those very quickly?
Yeah, the other thing is, are you considered to be an applicable large employer? What do I have to do then? That would be the next question. And then after that is, if I'm not, what do I have to do? And what we've been discussing is if I'm not, if I'm not an AO, what do I need to do? Well, and it's quite simply, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything.
But if you like Carmen said, if you want to use it as a recruiting tool, and there are a lot of reasons that you would offer health insurance, then you might want to be checking this out and looking at the shop. And in that website that I told you, and it's the healthcare website. It's healthcare.gov, and then the / shop. And if you go to that, they have a lot of questions, and I mean it's 40 or 50 questions that make a lot of sense. And you read those questions, you go, "That's what I need to know," and you just click on that, and there it is.
All right.
So it's a pretty good way of doing it.
Well, we have a lot of questions, and our first one comes from Susan. She says, "I'm trying to find the best option for our business. Do I go through the same process as an individual looking for a policy?"
Pretty much. I mean, you're going into you can go to a broker. Let's just remember that, first of all. You can go to an insurance agent. They're certified, not all of them, but you can ask them. I mean, if they're certified, you can go to them and get their help in picking out a plan. They haven't gone away. They're an integral part of the whole process. So you have that option. But when you go online, it's just like buying it as an individual. So here's the difference: is as an individual, if you make between 100% and 400% of the federal poverty level, then you have subsidies that could help you. Now, is that subsidy greater than what the employer's willing to pay? Because your employer's willing to provide something. So if the employer's only going to pay $100, but I can get a subsidy of $200 a month, I may want to do this. And I have that option. I can do that.
So I don't have to choose what the employer offers.
No, ma'am.
I don't have to do that.
Not as a small employer.
Not as a small employer.
Right.
Okay.
If it's a large employer,
It's
yeah,
different.
it becomes a whole different ballgame.
Okay, because if I don't choose it, if I work for a large employer and I choose not to accept what they're offering, then what?
No subsidy.
No subsidy. So it's huge. It's a big difference
Big
between
difference.
whether
Yeah,
you
you
work
get
for a
no-
small
yeah,
or a large
that's
employer.
correct.
That's important. All right, Brandon has a question. He says, I already offer health insurance to my employees. Will the company let them know if they need to change their plan to be in compliance, or am I supposed to tell them? I guess this kind of gets into the employee notification issue. So talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I would think every insurance company, and I don't represent insurance companies, so I don't really know that much how their procedure is, but I think most of them have already sent out their notices for 2014. And there'll be a whole nother round of notices going out in 2014 for 2015. So for that standpoint, they're going to let you know, and then you have to disseminate that information to your employees. But I'm not sure exactly how that. The simplest thing: call your insurer and say, "Hey, what do I need to do?"
Yeah, Carmen, did you want to add?
No, just call your insurer.
Okay.
Ask them.
Ask them. Okay.
That's why you have them.
Yeah, better be sure. Ask the darn question rather
Right.
than be silent and
Right.
find out you're wrong later on what you assumed.
Glinda says, my friend owns a business and she said that she will have to pay more toward employees' health coverage now that pre-existing conditions are covered by the ACA. Is that true?
That they'll be paying more.
More, yeah.
The gross is definitely more. Now the net, I don't know, because it depends on how much they make and how much of a subsidy they're going to get. You know, if you make the minimum amount, if you make 100% of the federal poverty, which is, don't hold me to this exact figure, $11,300, $11,400 for a single person. If you make that, you're going to get the largest amount of subsidy that's being offered. If you make the higher end, the 400%, which is in the $40,000 range, you're going to get the minimum subsidy. So, but the pre-existing condition has nothing to do with it whatsoever. It does increase the cost. So do the taxes. There were 8 different taxes that were added on during the Affordable Care Act. When it was put into play, there were, I want to say, around 8 different taxes that were added. So that has to be covered too.
Well, this brings me to another question, because it's something that has come up time and time again. For small businesses out there who are investigating, navigating the system, trying to figure out what they should do, a lot of them are under the impression that they're going to save money. Is that necessarily the case right now as they're getting into the Affordable Care Act?
You know, I mean, yes and no, and that I hate saying that, but they may save money depending on what they've purchased currently. They may have some type of policy that's through the lender of the insurer of last resort, whoever that might be. There seems to be somebody of last resort and everything. So that may be less for them. I know that if I were to go in there and purchase, you know, I've had a couple of procedures that would make me pre-existing condition, so I would not be able to get a policy, a traditional policy today. But I could under the individual mandate. So is it cheaper for me? Maybe not, but I can get one. So I'm not sure that cheap is really the way to look at it. I guess that's really the best answer I can give you, because it just depends.
Well, I guess that's an issue that you're hearing, or people trying to figure out if it's going to actually save them money.
I haven't heard that exactly. I've just heard, I'm confused. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
And that's what people are trying to figure out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's a question from Dan. What if you know your employee lives an unhealthy lifestyle? Do you have to offer them health insurance?
Absolutely. Dan, don't think about it. Dan needs to just
do it.
Offer it just like he offers everybody else. You want it, you know, if he's a large employer, he's got to offer coverage to 95% of his employees.
Okay.
You know, he has to make sure that they understand, you know, that they have been offered this policy, and it's up to them to reject it.
Well, luckily, that's a very small percentage of employers in the state of Louisiana, and hopefully, if Dan doesn't have 500 employees, so Dan's actually not going to have to offer health insurance to his employees if he chooses not to. But hopefully, even if he's not a large employer, he's still going to offer the health insurance because his employees will be grateful, and that'll come back to him with interest by productivity and employees who want to work hard and do a good job.
There's two good things in the Affordable Care Act that'll help, Dan, though, with that employee. One is smoking cessation is now available through ACA, so if they're smokers, they have the ability to get financial help with taking care of quitting smoking. Then there also, you can provide membership fee. There's some joining health clubs. I forgot what the percentage is. There's a maximum percentage that you can pay towards the health club, but you can provide that. I'm not sure if I don't know if it'll pay for any type of diet plans or things like that. But there's some things out there that'll help that person.
Okay. We are coming up in the very end of the show already, so before we leave again, Carmen, tell us about your organization.
The Louisiana Small Business Development Center's mission is to empower our small business owners and entrepreneurs with the right tools, technical assistance, and resources they need to grow their businesses. We do three things very well: business education, which is why we're partnering to do this educational series; business advising, that is free, confidential, one-on-one; and access to capital, which is also free. Our website is www.lsbdc.org.
Okay, and Doug?
Mine is real simple. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We got time. Don't get in any big hurry. Insurance companies are not running out of insurance policies. They got lots of policies, and get professional help. Buying health insurance is easier, but it's not like buying an airline ticket on kayak. Take your time.
Thank you both so very much. We've learned a lot. Appreciate your time. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of John Redmann, Power of Attorney.
Remember, you can watch every episode of the show at johnredmannpoa.com. You can also send in your questions via email, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.